Got him.
Still one guy behind the green set.
You good? Gotcha. Hey, gotcha, Jason. Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Nerfers. Today we're talking about this, the Dart Zone Max Outlaw. Let's get into it. First things first, let's talk about this box, because this box is dripping. If you collect boxes, this is definitely one to hang on your wall. If you flip open the box, NANI? I've already taken mine out, but the blaster would be able to be displayed here in the box, along with some additional graphics here, and a QR code here that we'll talk about later on. That being said, let's talk about what comes in the box. So in the box, we have the blaster itself with one of the cylinders pre-installed. It does also come with an additional cylinder, iPro, which these are the same ones that come with the Tomcat. If you want to see that review, check that out here. And 12 of these Dart Zone Max darts, aka Ruby darts. Now looking at the blaster starting in the front, we do have an orange tip sticking out of the blaster, as well as this like orange front section. We have a 2-to-1 iron sight at the top. Of course we have the cylinder here, which freely spins. There is no paint on the blaster, but the blaster does have a physical separation in the injection mold, where it says Dart Zone and then Max in a separate piece. Here's the safety. We have a trigger. We have this faux Picatinny with no notches and the word Outlaw here. It's also got some cool venting and a recess here. It looks like to load extra darts. Also noticing this hammer prime seems to be made of metal. My first impressions of this blaster are pretty good. It's got spinability, which you know is important to me for a pistol. The grip is pretty comfortable for my adult size hand, and it's got very strong color separations that make it look pretty cool and distinct, even though it doesn't actually have any paint on it. I'm not particularly sold on this color scheme, but I also don't hate it. It doesn't come with its own muzzle piece, but this does seem to be the same size, or roughly the same size, as that Dart Zone kind of standard piece. So you can use the Nexus Pro muzzle, the Dart Zone Max Striker muzzle, if you feel like cosplaying as the Joker, I guess. And even the Dart Zone Pro line ones. This is a true revolver, and anytime I find a cylinder-fed hammer prime blaster, I'm thinking gunslinger vibes. Like, I'm thinking Doc Holliday, or Billy the Kid, or Jesse James. Like, I pick this thing up, and I feel like I'm ready to go embarrass Johnny Ringo. I will say the prime on this blaster is easier than some of the modded Hammershots that I've seen, but it isn't light like I thought it would be. And if you try to pull straight down on it, it takes a lot of strength. However, if you cock your wrist to the side and prime using clamping motion between these 3 fingers on your hand, it definitely becomes more manageable. Now, if this thing performs at the same as a modded Hammershot or better, it's going to be an instant win in my book, and especially for the price. Speaking of price, this thing retails for $31.99 or $32, and you can pick it up at pretty much any Target. A couple things to note is that this blaster probably isn't dry fire safe. Now, unlike most spring-powered performance blasters, this blaster actually doesn't have a pusher to push the dart into the barrel. Now instead, the barrel comes actually back and seats into the cylinder to create the air seal. And if you pop out the cylinder, you can see it do that every time you pull the trigger, which is kind of interesting. Which means if you do want to dry fire it, you need to take the cylinder out and put your finger over this hole here at the front of the plunger. That being said, it has a really good seal. Let me get that for you one more time. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, 6 1000, 7 1000, 8 1000, 9 1000, 10. at least from here to there, it has a really good seal. Now that we got the basics, let's take it out there and see how it performs. Alright, so we're going to start our FPS testing with a baseline of the max darts that this blaster comes with. And then we'll compare it to a couple other ammo types and see how the different ammo types affect the blaster's performance. So with the included max darts, we got a high of 137, a low of 110, an average of 119, and an FPS spread of 17. Now we're going to shoot 5 of the Duece Pro Bamboo darts 2.0. These are a little lighter, so I expect to get a little higher FPS out of them. When it comes to the Duece Pro Bamboo darts, we got a high of 149, a low of 128, an average of 137, an FPS spread of 21. Now we're going to shoot 5 of the Worker Gen 3's HEs, or high ends. These are my dart of choice for competition, so I definitely want to know how they do with these. We had a high of 119 FPS, a low of 110, an average of 116, and a very tight spread of 9 FPS. Alright, we've encountered our first issue. Sometimes if it doesn't line up, it won't allow you to prime. As soon as I jiggled this a little bit and got it to line up correctly, then it would allow me to bring the hammer down. So if you've seen reviews on this channel or others before, you know that it's kind of expected that the bamboo darts had a little bit of a higher FPS number because they are lighter. That being said, they also had the highest spread and they had an average that reached outside of that 130 FPS cap for most HBZ games, so just keep that in mind. And of course, you can get all of these a little bit lower by adding a scar barrel. A scar barrel generally just adds twist to the dart so that it spins and therefore is more stable, making it more accurate. Now this blaster doesn't come with one, but like I mentioned before, it is compatible with that outer diameter of other Duece products. And it just so happens that the Worker injection molded scar is also that same outer diameter, which means that we can put it here in the front to impart some twist and get some more accurate shots. But stay tuned towards the end of the video and I'll show you how to take this setup to the next level for $0 extra. Speaking of accuracy though, let's go take this thing out on the field as is, no rifling attachment, just right how it comes out of the box and see how accurate it is. So we move things up to about 40 feet and at that distance, the included Duece max darts got a score of 3 out of 5 hits.
Hit. Hit. Hit.
The Duece Pro Bamboo darts got a score of 4 out of 5 hits.
That kind of curved to the right.
And that's a hit.
Hit.
And the Worker HEs also got a score of 4 out of 5.
Hit.
And a miss. Let's go back inside and we'll talk about it. That being said, what are my overall thoughts of this blaster? Well, let's get some of the negatives out of the way. This blaster is kind of like the natural successor to the Duece Pro. Even though the Duece Pro wasn't hammer prime, it was still a 6-shot revolver, and the things that they learned from that blaster have obviously carried over here. Most evidently in the rotation of the cylinder, but also with the way that the barrel mates to the cylinder. And that is a really cool feature. When it seats into there, that means that you can take the cylinder out whether the blaster is primed or not, and that's something that the Duece Pro could not do. Speaking of the Duece Pro though, there are a few things that I would have liked to see carry over from there, like the twist lock barrel. I thought that was a really cool thing that they did to have multiple FPS ranges. I also am kind of sad that they decided to go with this faux Picatinny that actually doesn't have notches. Makes it kind of hard to use certain attachments. I'm sure that the aftermarket will definitely come up with solutions for this, especially since it's only held in by 2 screws right here and right here. I also really wish they would have had some kind of Picatinny across here. Not everybody likes to use iron sights, and even if it might not be that helpful at this velocity, it would have been cool to attach some aftermarket sights, even some of the ones that Duece makes. This blaster doesn't come with nearly as many things as the Duece Pro did. For starters, the Duece Pro actually came with 3 of these cylinders, 1 installed in the blaster and 2 outside of it, as opposed to the 1 inside and 1 outside that this blaster comes with. I also greatly preferred the color scheme on that blaster, but that's just a personal opinion. And another thing that the Duece Pro came with was actually a leg holster as well as a belt holder for the extra cylinders. And so for that price difference of $32 for this blaster to the $8 in that one, I would have gladly paid the extra $8 for those accessories. Now, those accessories are still available more or less in the form of a 3D printed file solution that is free. That's actually what this QR code is for. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to Dartzone's website, and there is actually a little secret file set for a left and right holster and a carrier for your extra cylinders. As of right now, you can also buy extra cylinders for the Duece Pro, and you cannot do that for the Max Outlaw. But I have a feeling they're gonna probably change that soon. And in case you're wondering, they are not cross-compatible because of that seating technology. That's one of a couple drawbacks that this approach actually causes. The other one is with scar barrels. Now, when you use a worker scar, it has a collet. A lot of blasters these days have exposed barrels, and you can actually use this collet to go over it, and thus the dart immediately hits twist when it comes out of that barrel. However, a lot of the blasters from Dartzone, including this one, have that inner diameter that fits the outer diameter of these. When putting this in, I would usually flip this collet to the outside so that there's not a gap of dead space before the dart hits the twist. It's just more efficient that way. However, when you pull back the trigger for this and the barrel comes back, there's actually a gap being created between the edge of this muzzle insert piece and the actual barrel, which means that gap is happening anyways. And I do have a free solution for that if you want to take it to the next level. What you can actually do is disassemble the face of the blaster. Now, what you want to do for this is to actually take out the cylinder and then unscrew all of the screws on this left side of the blaster, and then you would remove the top plate of the blaster. There's actually two separate pieces that make up this orange front piece, and one of them is the cylinder in which the scar would friction fit into. And if you actually just completely remove that piece, and you're able to mate the scar directly to the barrel. And because you do that, when you pull the trigger, the entire scar moves with the barrel, making it more efficient. If you already have a worker scar, this is absolutely free. If you don't have one, I'll leave a link down below in the description so you can pick one up for yourself. Even if you don't want to mate it permanently to the barrel like I did, it's still a great pickup. You can throw it in the nose of just about any of the Dartzone Pro, Max, or Adventure Force Pro lines. And it works with a blaster that has an exposed barrel with an outer diameter of about 16 millimeters, which is the standard. Well, you might be thinking, if I do that, then I won't be able to use these Nexus pieces. Well, the unfortunate downside of this is that with blasters like the Nexus, you can actually fire alternative types of ammo like Mega or Rival using these muzzles. But because the seal actually breaks right here where the barrel separates from the muzzle piece, all of the air that you would use to fire something out of the muzzle gets lost here. So you don't get anything except for an aesthetic by inserting these in here. And I'll show you what I mean. If you put a Mega Dart in the nose of this muzzle here from the Nexus Pro and Aeon Pro, and then you prime the blaster and fire, bruh, nothing really happens because the air pressure is lost right here. However, if I do nothing else, twist this off and insert it into an Aeon Pro, it actually fires. And it's the same for Rival ammo, because from the moment that the pusher goes into the barrel all the way up to this piece, there is a seal. Whether it's good or bad, there's at least some kind of seal, and that's just something we lose in order to gain the ability to get a good seal with a cylinder and also be able to take it out while primed, which is a trade-off I'm more than happy to make. All in all, I'm really happy with this blaster. I think it's going to be a great contender. While less loadouts for HVZ or Super Stock, I'm sure it can be made into more power, but I think one of the cool things is that it's really good at the power that it's at. For $32, I definitely recommend this, and you'd spend more trying to get a Hammershot up to this performance, and it still wouldn't be as light of a prime as this is. Now, I don't want you to think that it's a light prime, because it's not. Another thing is that you can get a lighter spring for this from Out of Darts. I don't know what happened with Dartzone releasing their own. It's something that they said in their Blaster Chat podcast that they were gonna do, but I haven't seen one as of yet. If you do know how to find one specifically from Dartzone for this blaster, let me know down in the comments below. As for the one from Out of Darts, I am going to put it down in the description as well so that you can find this on your own. I'm really excited for this blaster. I definitely could have used one of these at Maryland Mayhem at the UMBC Invitational. I'm actually probably going to get a second one of these and try out some different holster options. As I mentioned in the slab video, if you want to see me put together a Wild West loadout, let me know down in the comments, and maybe loadouts will become a more regular thing on the channel. If you like the kind of content that I'm putting out, make sure to mag dump that like button, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see the next videos that we're planning. That's all I have for you guys for now, and until next time on The King of Games, have a blast.